is not a drill, this is not a drill. All warriors mount up. Proceed to nav point Gamma. Rendezvous with Mobile HQ for tactical and situational analysis. Welcome to the MHQ Podcast.
Hey everybody.
you do the intro.
Yeah, I'm pretty used to doing it. So hey guys, it's Jose, Randall, and Bradley. We're here talking about the campaign game that we play, created by Randall and Bradley, and I've chipped in, a few others have as well. And I'm just going to sit back and listen to the conversation. I'll butt in when I think I've got something to butt in on. And have a go at it, guys.
All right, yeah, we're actually going to be talking a little bit more about house rules, and the campaign itself is all house rules pretty much. So, I mean, that's kind of where it starts and where it leads to.
Well, I agree about that. It's mostly house rules, but we do have sections where you need to go into the Alpha Strike book in order to get the actual ruling. I think what it really does best, that your system really does best, is it streamlines the way the game is played, so you don't have to go back and forth all over that book just to get information. Which is a problem, I think. It's not a real problem with the book. It's just when they try to put everything for Alpha Strike into one book, they might have did, it doesn't flow with the alternate rule this, alternate rule that.
Yeah, and at least when I'm referencing something from the core books, I'm like, hey, go to this page. So, boom, you got it.
Yep. And then generally okay, go ahead, Randall. My bad.
Well, no big deal. So for people who don't know, the campaign is a very well flushed out game book. It's 150 pages of campaign guide that has been pieced together from various BattleTech sources, anything from classic BattleTech mercenary stuff through the Alpha Strike companion book. Stole some stuff from the Chaos campaign, things like that. So put it all together, tried to make it into a coherent process, so you can start from building your force of like 300, 400, 500 type force, and watch your force grow over time. And Bradley, with his former military experience, I was constantly badgering him about, like, hey, what about this? What about that? What about that? Is this something you actually saw in the field? Like stuff like that.
Oh yeah. I mean, Randall would turn on and come up with an idea, and he would immediately call me and he would like, hey, what do you think about this? And then we would sit back and look at the pros and the cons of such rule, and does it benefit the game or does it benefit the one player who knows how to use that? And we always came with an agreement that, if both of us can't agree on it, then it shouldn't be a part of it. And if we can both agree with it, let's make sure that it works in the game, and then we would play test it to make sure that it's balanced in the game.
Yeah, there's one thing I do like about the system is that is available, and you can literally negotiate not only what area you're in, all that kind of stuff, but also you can negotiate. Hey, listen, I don't want to play with SPA skills. Let's just play a straight up game without it. We can, that kind of stuff can be put into the game so that everybody feels comfortable, and you don't have to like ram something down someone's throat that they're not comfortable playing.
Yeah, because like aerospace is kind of a bolt-on system in Alpha Strike. So it's like, okay, well, do you want to play with aerospace? If so, then, well, here's some additional rules for campaign play. It's like in the Alpha Strike Commander's Edition, they talk about fuel, but they don't tell you how it's used. You have to actually go to the companion, and in the companion, they talk about the abstract aerospace rules, which is about going from orbital all the way down to the ground level. And that's the only time you really reference fuel. So I was like, okay, well, we got to do something with it. You can't have unlimited air superiority.
No. So things have to land. You have to refuel, rearm. Pilot fatigue has to be taken in, because it's vastly different when you think about real world. A fighter pilot there's a lot of high G turns, and that's wear and tear on the human body. So we took that in consideration with the campaign rules. But as far as homebrew rules, we definitely wanted to make sure that they were good play, and we wanted to make sure that it wasn't something that one player could stretch 20,000 miles to make it work for them.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, so jumping in, let's talk about some house rules. These are not necessarily in any particular order, but I put together a whole document of house rules that I kind of wanted to implement. We've tried it at various points, starting with initiative. So when you're talking about like you have like your 1200 versus 1200 force, doing initiative by lance and by individual units just is so cumbersome. You know, you move, I move, you move, I move. That takes a while. So what I've always suggested is whoever loses moves half of their force rounded up, and then the winner moves half their force rounded up, and then the loser moves the rest of their force, and then the winner moves half the rest of their force. And until you get to a manageable size, you just keep doing that until you're probably about like 12 units or so, and then you can go into individual combat.
Well, Bradley and I tried. Bradley, didn't we try that by lance when we had our big game 48 on 48?
Yeah, I always do play.
Lance.
I do it always by lance because I just think that when you give an order to a company or to a lance, the whole formation moves, you know, and it's just. Yeah. To me, it's a quicker way of moving your armies. With the way Randall wants to do it too is pretty good when you're first starting out. But the problem is sometimes with that, if you got a big grand army on the table, like how me and Ron did with the 2600 PV, you know, it was like, how many lances you got? How many stars you got? Okay, well, you move half and then I move half, and then when we get to, you know, combat after like the second or third round, then we'll reevaluate our numbers. And do like what Randall says, then we'll go to the moving of lances, and then when it gets to smaller, then you go by individual units. You grade at the number of units that you move as you start to lose numbers and units.
Yeah, the biggest problem with doing it by lance is you've got to make sure you have consistent formations. So if you're doing, you know, Word of Blake versus a standard Intersphere, 4 versus 6, that can either be a detriment or it can be an advantage, depending on how you're doing things.
That's the key for the player to be able to recognize that, hey, I got 2 levels 2 units. That's 6 mechs each. That's my force. If we're doing lance by lance movement, that means when I move 6, he's got to move 2 lances to my 6. That's an advantage for the player because now he can move his final 6 in a more defensive or offensive capability. You know? Right. It really depends on how you want to look at it.
Yeah, that's where it gets clan. That's where it gets a little confusing too, because it's like, okay, well, how many you got? Okay, and that's why I like just going, you know, oh, you got 36, I got 28. You know, okay, well, I just have to do half of mine. You know, it doesn't matter how many you've got. We don't have to go back and forth. It's always going to be two phases basically of movement. But you know, that's one of those things I think just speeds up bigger games. Boom, get it done, get it over with. It's simple. Now, I do have some negative feedback on that. So the negative is because you're moving half, you can set things up and you can get routed easier. So it's like, okay, the first person moves and then half of their force could be completely cut out of combat if the terrain is set up right. So you do have to be strategic about which half you're moving. You don't want to just like move everything on the right-hand side and then everything on the left-hand side. You want to,
unless you have a strategy in place.
Right, that could be your strategy, but usually you don't want to do that because then the opponent could go, okay, well, I'm just going to move my guys out of line of fire. You know, or group everything together all at one ball of death.
Yeah.
And that's why you have artillery.
You know what? That's an interesting topic right there because I don't know if you guys watched the WolfNet's Thursday night fights that they have.
I don't never watch their Thursday night fights. I don't watch, but I listen to their podcast.
Okay, last Thursday night, it was Coach and one of the other guys there. They were going after each other. Coach brought 8 medium mechs because he wanted to prove that 8 medium mechs were viable in the 350 format now that they've gone to 250 points.
Okay.
And the other guy brought the Raven Alliance, and he brought 2 level 2s and 2 skill 2s and 2 skill 3 pilots, the clan, of course, and 3 assaults, 1 heavy. But it was all about where he placed his terrain, because literally the 8 mechs couldn't get to him where he placed his terrain. And you guys should go back and take a look at it, because when I saw what he was putting down in the center, I immediately thought, I have to deny him that. That's way too much cover. I thought that immediately, but I guess when you're there playing, you don't see it because you're there, you're in the moment, and you miss that. But as soon as I saw him put that down, I'm saying 8 mechs might not be enough, I understood why, and he explained why.
You're breaking up a little bit, but what was the outcome of that? So 8 mechs versus the 4?
The 4 didn't lose a single mech. It was the Headhunter where you go after 2 commanders.
Okay.
Yeah, well, coach lost.
Yeah, so with Headhunter, you've got to have a survivable unit, either super speedy or, a ton of armor or something.
Yeah.
That's kind of one of those 2 extremes.
He did a couple things. I liked his setup. But, he was trying to get all jumpers, and he made his commander a hunchback without jump.
Oh, geez.
And that kind of messed him up. And then his strategy, I thought, was sound, except for, I personally think he didn't use it like a Bradley would have attacked those 8 mechs and would have come across the field, to engage, where he was trying to stay in medium range the entire time.
Right.
And the way I saw it, dude, Bradley would eat you alive. Randall would eat you alive. Ronald will eat you alive if you tried that, And I was watching that. I'm going, all he was trying to do was to show that you could put 8 mechs on the battlefield at one time if they're all medium mechs. And you know what? They weren't that bad mechs. I looked at them and I'm going, yeah, okay, I agree. There was a couple that I was thinking, I don't know.
Right. If it was a closer result, like, okay, he lost, say all 8 of his forces, but his opponent was down to 1 or 2 units and badly beaten, I go, okay, that's a fair test and fair trade. I've actually been messing around with just doing one-offs. So I've been going to master unit list, and I find something that's in the 50 PV range, and I take one of those and then add up a full lance of 50 PV from lighter units. And the goal was to just experiment to see, is PV a fair balance? Like, if it's 1 for 1 with no extra special abilities, are these 2 forces actually equal in combat ability? And so far, I haven't seen that.
Whoa. Wait, gentlemen, let me interact with something right quick, okay? I know that we want to have balanced games and we want to have fair games, but in combat, there's no such thing as fair. Equal term. Exactly.
Right. Oh, yeah. I was just trying to see, it is, 4 or say 320 PV, lights or slow mediums, equivalent to a single 60-point Atlas, and what I found, at least doing the Stingers, the Stingers got wiped out. As long as they won initiative and they had cover to hide behind, they were okay. But as soon as they didn't have full cover, they got wiped out. It was just a matter of who's gonna do more damage. And I did it by the numbers too, and I was like, I'm starting to think the PV needs to be adjusted, but I don't know how.
Well, like I said, it was a very interesting fight. If you guys and our viewers get a chance, go and take a look at that game, because I thought when I saw 8 mechs on the battlefield, I'm going, oh, that's right, they race it to 250. But then I started doing the math, and I go, there isn't one over. Is there anyone over here over 35 points? And there basically was one, and most of them were in the 30 to 31, 32 point range. And they had medium range. They outpunched the medium range of the other 4 mechs that they were going up against. Long range, they were a little light. Indirect fire, they were even more light. And it was just I don't know. It's just it was just something I saw, and I'm thinking I understand what he was trying to do, but I also saw that he was beaten as soon as the centerpiece on the other side went down.
Gotcha.
And it was definitely terrain setup.
Back to the house rules. You guys have any house rules that kind of jump out front?
Oh yeah, my first one is more gameplay. House rules is if you can't find an agreement in the rule book on how something should be played out, you roll a dice and it's 1d6, odd yes, even no, or however you want to play it. Another one is mine for checking line of sight is the rubber band of fate, where you take a elastic rubber band, a big one, and you use it to stretch it across the field, and anything that rubber band touches hinders and blocks line of sight. Those are more my house rules that I like to use. It's not part of Alpha Strike rules. It's not part of Classic rules, but it's more of a house rule.
Yeah. The rubber band is great until you slip and you knock over half of your whack!
Did you just shoot my miniature across the table?
Oh! I like using the laser pointer that's a line.
Yeah.
I like using that, even though at times it creates more arguments than not. Well, it's touching that building, so therefore I have half cover. And I go, it's touching the base of the building. It's not touching the building, okay? And it can be useful. At the same time, it can cause that little bit of friction that kind of derails the game sometimes.
Yeah, I'm glad that our group at least has been pretty flexible. Maybe in the different group that you're running with, Jose, might be a little more contentious.
It's more they're coming. Most of the people I play are coming from Alpha Strike, from Classic, and it might be that.
There's definitely a cultural difference,
Oh yeah.
So like Classic BattleTech players, they take pride in being able to do all the calculations as quickly as possible, and I'm tired of that. I need a quick game, so.
Yeah.
So that's part of this is like, so one of the things we skipped is how do you introduce house rules? So what is the etiquette for doing that? And obviously to me it's, hey, I'd like to use some house rules. Are you cool with that? Yeah. Well, what kind of house rules do you want? Some house rules, if you're familiar with them, may benefit you. But if you're not familiar, you might do
is get them written down and then put them out to your group, so that way all the people in your group can see what these rules are. Since they're not standard rules, they can review them and they can turn on and give you the feedback that you look, or they may turn and give you a perspective like, hey, I don't like this, or this is too much, or this is
right.
And then you listen to what they got to say and you try to make your adjustments to make the rule work.
And ideally the house rule should be really simple.
Yes.
Instead of this, we're doing that, and it should be like a 1-for-1 exchange. Yeah. Now, sometimes certain circumstances, no matter what you do, if you're going to change a rule, it could be complicated because there's chain of events. Like, I love using D12s instead of 2D6. Some people are like, oh, sacrilege.
Well, I understand that. But I've seen a 1 show up on a regular basis, more regular than I like, and then it's like, what is that, a re-roll? Because on 2d6 you at least get a 2. You know what I mean?
A 1 is always a miss.
Yeah, and it's funny because I think I mentioned a while ago to you guys that one of the things I would love to change is if you got a stack of a conga line and you got a friendly mech in front of you and you roll that critical miss, you unload all your shots into the back of your friend in front of you because you fucked up and you missed, pardon the language, but you know what I mean? That kind of stuff. That seems realistic to me.
Oh yeah,
not fire, not dinking and diving and shooting all over the place that they're saying what's happening. Now, come on, these are mechs. These are big monstrosities. They do not float like a butterfly, and they sting a hell of a lot harder than bees.
Rules say otherwise, sir.
The books say otherwise.
Shooting through your buddy should definitely be a modifier. Yeah. And I think if you there's already the rule. Say if you've got partial cover on a building and you miss by 2 points, it'll hit the building instead. That should be the rule for shooting your buddy in the back.
We should think about it.
I agree with that.
Okay,
Now,
we should think about that. Yeah.
We've been doing the multiple attack dice.
Yeah.
So for each point of damage, we're rolling 2d6 to see. So we're rolling like handfuls of dice at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that would be like 1 or 2 points. Boom, boom.
Yeah, exactly. We could still hit the opponent, but I kind of hit the building too, okay?
Or my buddy.
Or your buddy. Yeah, exactly. Because as it stands right now, though, I mean, I missed. Yeah, and you got 2 crit fails in there, and you got an Atlas in front of your flea. Give me a break. Yeah. Come on.
Now, I can see, like, if you've got infantry in front or something that's less than half your height.
Yes.
No,
that's different.
no big deal. You're shooting over them.
Shoot over their head.
Yeah. But if you got mech and mech, or a tank and a tank, infantry and an infantry.
Yeah.
Anything that's equal size or bigger, you're shooting them in the back accidentally. Oops.
That would
All right,
definitely
next
stop
thing I got.
the line.
Yeah, it has to. It's ridiculous. I mean, I do it because it's allowed in the rules, and I'm like, every time I do, I feel guilty, and I tell my opponent, I was like, this is really cheesy, but until they change the rules, I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
Movement. So, sprinting. I know this is an easy one. Sprinting should give you a +1 defense. You're already giving up your attack.
Yeah,
Give me
exactly.
a +1 defense. Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, why not? Why? And it's like I'm always interested as to why, you can't shoot after you sprint. I know it's action and all that kind of stuff, but to me, if I'm not allowed to shoot, I want a TNM increase of 1.
Right. That was the intent of it.
See, they used to have that what was that
Evasion.
Dodge evasion rule.
Yeah.
That made more sense as to why you couldn't shoot back, because you're ducking and weaving. Sprinting is nothing more in classic BattleTech than a unit that is not walking but is running. You took a +2 modifier to shoot because you were running. It should be the same thing for Alpha Strike. I hate the fact that the sprinting it's not real true sprinting by classic BattleTech rules, because that used to be sprinting in BattleTech was half the movement of the unit at its walk speed would be added to the run speed. So if a unit went 6'9", it would go 12 now, because you would add 3 to the 9 and you would be able to move 12 inches. You would still be able wouldn't be able to shoot because you sprinted, because you're really coordinating the speed and you're more focused on moving really fast. Right. That rule makes sense, but in Alpha Strike it doesn't carry the same weight.
So yeah, that's something that we've talked about, but we've never really implemented. The other thing is, like, when you take movement damage, they used to have in the earlier editions, they had your TMM table, so you could see, okay, well, an 8 is a +1 TMM, a 10 is a 2, and so on and so forth. So I don't know why you wouldn't just redo that and just say, oh well, I'm at half movement. So that gets me 9 points. So with a 9, I should be at a TMM 2. Yeah. Instead, they went for the simplicity, and sometimes simple is better. But going half movement doesn't necessarily, translate to half your TMM. It's like going from 18 to 9 is a reduction of 1 TMM if you actually do the math by their old table.
Mm-hmm.
But getting cut to half goes down to a 1 TMM, because you have to actually round down on your TMM when you do take the half damage.
Well, here's a question for you. Should it also work backwards? Let's say you take a couple hits to movement and your movement's halved, and you were a TNM 4. Let's say you're so small, you were a TNM 4, but your movement got halved and you're down to 6. Shouldn't you be a 1? A lot easier to hit because you don't no longer have that speed element?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So,
okay.
I got my VTOLs that have 24-inch move. If I take a mode, I'm down to 12. Well, 12 is a 2.
If you survive the motive hit.
Right. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. But then you get a hit of, say, -2 movement. Well, if I went from 24-inch move to 22 move, I'm still at a TMM4. Why am I losing a full point of TMM? I know it's part of the mechanics. They didn't used to do it that way. I think they should bring that back. You know, it makes it a little bit more complicated, but I think it's a little better for the mental grasp. Why am I still running at 22 movement, but I lost a full TMM? Doesn't make sense. The next thing I got on my list is damage. I love not enough units are differentiated. So there's like you got the Stinger that has machine guns, and then you have the Stinger that has all energy weapons. But there's nothing different stats-wise between the two. And I came up with burst fire. Basically, if the unit has machine guns, light machine guns, heavy machine guns, pulse lasers, micro pulse lasers, or flamer, it gets a burst fire bonus. And the only thing that really does is if you're shooting against conventional infantry, you get an extra point of damage. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty easy.
Used to be in the classic rules, if you caught infantry in the open and you used machine guns, it was double damage. So you're right with the burst fire.
Oh, it's even worse than that.
Yeah.
Instead of doing 2 points of damage that a machine gun does, it does 2d6 damage. That's potentially 12 points of damage. Average of 7. That's 3 times as much as what the base damage is. So yeah. All right. So next up, I got excess heat. So right now, if you shoot a mech with heat, it can only take 2 points. But you should be able to do damage off of that heat.
If I have 4 elemental squads with fire shooting at it, they each hit with 2 and it can only take 2, I call BS on that.
Exactly.
No, wait a minute. I think there is a rule in the book that says if a unit cannot take more heat damage, then it is translated over to normal damage.
I'd have to double check that. I haven't seen it.
But here's my reason why that's true. Because you look at the rules regarding vehicles, what happens when vehicles are hit by a heat weapon?
They take an extra.
My point exactly.
Well, that's what brought up the idea of the house rule. But I don't think that's the way the heat actually works.
I think it might, man, but we could check that out later.
Well, let's put it this way. That game that me and Steven played with
I just read it. Page 52.
What
says, let me get to the very beginning. If a unit is capable of building heat has already generated 2 points of heat during the turn from heat attacks, the unit does not receive any additional heat effects. Instead, the extra heat points from these attacks are simply lost. And I say nonsense.
Bullshit.
That's bogus.
No. Bullshit. Yeah. Because I've it's one of those things, and honestly, I'm confused about the rules of if you're shooting with heat on your if you don't. Okay, let's say you got 3 heat on your mech.
Yeah.
Because you had an overheat of 3. And you blasted for that extra 3 points of damage. You got it in. Yeah, you took out that mech. But you're at 3 heat. Okay. How come if you shut down and don't fire, you lose all 3 heat?
Right.
And I'm thinking to myself, okay, but if you fire 1, you shut down. How do you go from that swing?
Because Alpha Strike does not let you play the heat game.
Yeah.
Well, that we know, but I mean,
I wrote up a conversion guide for Destiny, MechWarrior Destiny. And I use Alpha Strike as your stats, and in that conversion, I did a much more advanced heat. So you could do that. You can play the heat game. So once you hit, I think it was 3 heat, there's a chance that you automatically shut down, and you have to override it. But then once you get to 4 heat, there's a chance of your ammo explosion. 6 heat, 7 heat, and everything else, it just keeps climbing up like in classic BattleTech. But I don't want to add that Alpha Strike. But if you were doing a role-playing game with 4 of your buddies as your mech warriors, that might be manageable because you're all just doing 1 mech. Yeah, which related to heat management, for Alpha Strike, I think you should be able to reduce 1 point of heat if you reduce your damage at that range by 2. So basically, let's say I can do 4 points of damage, and I just decide I'm going to shoot 2 points of damage instead of 4. I should be able to reduce my heat by 1 point at the end of that round.
Whereas right now, rules as written, you can move, but you cannot shoot.
Correct. And that's an easy little fix, and it gives you a penalty.
Yeah.
It's not a 1-for-1, it's a 2-for-1. And I went through the math at one point. There's a lot of ifs, ands, or buts. If my damage is caused by a gauze rifle, well, obviously that's not going to give me much heat back if I don't shoot that. But if it's made with PPCs or large lasers, not shooting that would give me a big heat return in Classic. But to make it simple, 2 points to 1, and that should work.
Yeah, it should. Like I said,
one more thing on heat.
What?
We've been using alternate ammo quite a bit. There's heat seekers.
Yeah, they are. One of my favorite arms to use, or ammunition to use.
Here's the thing that sucks about them. By the rules, if you hit, say, a vehicle with a flamethrower, it doesn't give you a bonus for shooting it. So I think for one round, it should be treated as if it was overheated. So you get at least one round where it's considered hot and ready to be hit by those heat seekers.
If you play in a tank, it's a fireball. It's a beacon for those infernos to hit it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, in Classic, it was pretty much dead.
Yeah. Yep. Here's my question to you guys. I've seen a lot of people move their tanks into woods for cover. Seems to me, if they're in woods and you light them on fire, those tanks should be out of the game because they're going to roast. I'm saying that because I've seen that tactic used in a lot of games I've played, both at Critical Hits and at Armada and at Warforged as well. I saw a lot of people move their armored vehicles into the woods to get that extra cover.
That's when you pull out the rules for fire and you set the woods on fire.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but are they limited to 2 points of heat if they're a mech?
So external, they would get 1 point of heat for the fire that they're standing in, and then whatever external heat that they get would be +1. So they're still limited to 2 there, and then if they overheat for some reason, either engine hit or voluntary overheat, they're going to get more points. But when you're talking about just plain fire, you can set the woods on fire. I'm looking through the book right now, seeing if I can find anything real quick, but I'm not seeing it yet.
I would love to see a tank that's a flamethrower unit. I know it's going to go kaboom as soon as you hit it with the high explosive cell. I understand that. But if it could get sneaky up, it gets behind a wall of mechs and light them up. It lights them up. Okay, fine if it goes boom afterwards, but it still lit them up.
Partial cover's been a pain in the butt.
Yes.
So my rule of thumb is if you can see the center of the opposing unit, then you can hit. But if any part of their unit is behind some sort of solid cover, like a building, then they get partial cover.
Negative. If center to center, if the center of the mech is behind cover, then it get it. If it's not, then it's not.
No, if the center is there, they can't see each other.
How about an idea I've been having for a while now? I've been seeing some really massive mechs partially get themselves covered going behind a building where their weapons are arm mounted and one of their weapons has no line of fire.
You're going more into Classic.
Well, yeah.
That's
well, like I'm saying, Bradley, I'm playing at Armada Games. Come on. They play Classic and they're going to Alpha Strike.
I got you.
Okay, so I see a lot of that, and they're going for cover. I also use the center to center. If the center of the mech and the center of my mech are in the clear, they get no coverage. If the center of their mech is behind, then I'll give them coverage. That's fine. But what I'm seeing is that they're firing their full damage at me when they have one arm that can't fire without blowing the building to shreds in front of it. And
I get that too.
I've always been a little cheesy, you know. That's a little cheesy, because if an Abrams is behind a building and its tow missile array cannot fire because it'll hit the building instead of the target. Okay, that part of the Bradley's out of action for that moment.
So keep in mind also, your final position on the battlefield is not necessarily your only movement during that round.
Oh, I get that.
You can justify it by saying, no, I took the corner, I stepped out and fired, and then I went back to my final position.
Okay.
That's kind of my hand waving.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
But yeah, it's just step out, fire.
Yeah, there's just little things that when you're bringing up your should we have a home rule with this or that, that I see a different point of view on what I'm seeing. Man, these guys play so much different over here.
Right. And well, the reason why I'm suggesting, if the base is covered and at any point that you got the partial cover is because of that, wobbly, if I'm being shot at, I'm going to back up and use the cover. And it also removes that whole, I can see, more than your leg, and, that stupid little millimeter measurement. That's not quite a third. Yes, it is. It's definitely a third. No, it's not a third. Whatever.
I've solved the arguing by saying, hey, if you have 2 coverage, then you also have 2 to hit, plus 2 to hit me, and that usually kills the argument.
But it doesn't, because the way they changed the woods terrain thing. So if it's in the first 2 inches in front of the unit, the shooter doesn't have to worry about that terrain.
Yeah, but if it's 6 inches between you and your opponent,
it's not the thickness of the terrain; it's the distance in front of the shooter. That first 2 inches gets ignored.
Right.
That's true.
So if the partial cover is beyond that, then yes, it affects both players.
Yeah.
But if one guy's hugging the corner and the other guy's 6 inches away, well, it affects one but not the other.
Okay.
And that's where you get into those arguments where it's like, well, I can see his leg and this and that and the other. I think that's more than a third.
Okay.
Really?
Let's get going. That's going to be a here. Yeah. It depends where you play, what they're going to rule it.
Right. But maybe you want to have that discussion up front. How are we going to handle partial cover? Because it does become a problem. And even in this little discussion here, we have disagreements.
Yeah, well, let's put it this way. Where we're at Armada, they'll bring out Total Warfare and they'll open it up to a page. There's the rule. And I tell them, that's not the Alpha Strike book. This is the Alpha Strike book. Yeah. And then they'll spend a half hour to an hour looking through it to come up with a similar rule.
Right.
And it's like, okay, fine. No thanks. I'd rather just play. We could have gotten an entire round or 2 done in that time.
Right.
Yeah.
So, getting on to infantry. Size. Conventional infantry should get the +1 battle armor modifier.
Yes, I agree.
Spread out. They can hit the deck. They can do everything battle armor can do. There's no reason why they can't. I know they say, okay, well, it's 28 people in this, 1 hex thing, but it's stupid.
So that's fine. That's fine. Unless it's a high explosive round that comes in from artillery, they're not all going to get hit.
Right, but artillery hits AOE anyway, so whatever.
Yeah, but that's one thing. But if it's a machine gun and they're spread out and some are in cover, some are going to get hit, some are not.
Right.
So that's infantry movement and the TNM of infantry. I've seen there are ways to get around that. I recently saw a game where the elemental unit that he was using had stealth.
Yep.
So that gives him a 1. Disembarked, that's a 2. And then
no, that's not how it works.
Well, anyway, That's how they say it worked. And I'm shaking my head because I know we don't play it that way, but that's the way they were playing it, and I'm just going, just play. I'll play it that way. Whatever, let's play.
See, that's where I'm like, no, let's go to the book. That's not how I recognize it. This is the way. So you should get, they can move up to half of their movement as they disembark. So they could only go 3 inches if they're a typical jump elemental. They get +1 for battle armor. They get their TMM. So that would be 2, +1 for jumping. Yeah, that's 3. +1 for stealth. That's 4. Now, the one that is kind of a newish rule is if you're in base contact with a friendly unit, you can use that as cover, and that can give you up to a +3. And that one is a powerful bonus. But they could always target your friendly unit and potentially destroy that. So the other thing for
that's something I'm going to have to read up more on, because I need to be able to defend my thoughts when I play at this group. I like playing with these guys, especially when a couple of them show up, because they're a lot of fun. But it's just whenever we have, like for instance, the tables are big enough that we can have an Alpha Strike game on one side and a Classic game on the other side. And when the 2 Classic players start telling us how to run the game, is where I start getting, this is not the same game, guys. Yes, we're using the same size mechs, but it's not the same game. You're playing what? You've gotten 2 rounds in, and we're in our 7th round? Give me a break.
Yeah, it's definitely a different game.
Yeah.
So another one I've got is conventional infantry should be able to use alternate ammo only if they have that word in their description.
On their card.
So, so like the LRM infantry should be able to use LRM alternate ammo. SRM should be the same.
Yep.
Now, I
don't 100% agree.
There's only one AC unit that's out there that I think, but I don't know about that one.
No, I agree with that one. The autocannons, the towed autocannons, you would be able to use alternate ammo. In the classic rules, you would be allowed to. It was only half the amount of ammo. For some reason, they always penalized it, but you could turn around and still have the infantry load the autocannon up with the alternate ammo.
Right. So, VTOLs. Guess what I got for this one?
Uh-oh.
VTOL bombs.
Yes, bomb them.
Yeah.
So, by the rules...
Actually, why can't they bomb?
Well, they can. So, it's in the rule that you lose 2 inches of movement per bomb that you carry. However, there's no limit. Which doesn't make any bloomin' sense.
Okay, hold on a second. How about if you have a cargo capacity?
Well, cargo can't be bombs.
Ah.
Yeah, the bombs are external and they should be mounted on something. So the house rule that we came up with to kind of mitigate this was you can only use as many bombs as the size of the unit. So if it's a size 2 VTOL, it can have 2 bombs. You have a size 1, 1 bomb. And it's simple. It clears up things. Because otherwise, my favorites are the Peregrines, 24-inch move. Why not use, I don't know, 6 different bombs on there? Sure, I lose 12 inches worth of movement.
That's still 12, yeah.
That first bombing run is going to hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, but that also should slow you down and reduce your TNM.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'd be down to 12 movement. But sneak around, be slow and sneaky, and then in that moment, drop them when I need them.
Yeah. And you can't sprint with that bomb load?
You can sprint.
Okay, so that's 18.
It's 18. I could still get to cover behind something. And
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's one of those broken rules where you definitely need to talk about some sort of limitation. Let's see here. Talked a little bit about the variable damage using D12s instead of 2D6. I just like it because it speeds things up.
Have you guys tried the system that DFA does, Defamum, where they have a pilot dice?
I haven't tried it, but
I don't like it. I'll tell you why. If that pilot, let's say you have 1 red die and 5 white dice to be your secondary die to whatever you roll on that red die. If you roll a 6, you're golden. If you roll a 5, you're pretty much golden. If you roll a 1 or a 2, it doesn't matter what you roll, unless you needed a 6 or a 7, you're not going to hit.
Right.
You know, and that's what I don't like about it.
And that rarely happens. So
it does, but at the same time, you're more likely to miss than you are to hit because you're not rolling 2 sets of dice per each point of damage.
Right. I do like that it reduces the number of dice that you're rolling.
That it does.
But you're still doing all the same math of adding 2 numbers to figure it out.
Yeah.
It does simplify it. I mean, obviously, if you need a 9 and you rolled a 5, well, you need anything 4 or higher. Okay, those hit. But yeah, the D12, I like the simplicity of it. Boom, done.
I agree with that.
Now I know people are like, hey, the bell curve is different. Yes, it is. But to mitigate that, if you roll a 12, you roll it again. And if you roll a 10 or higher, that's when you actually get the critical. So that actually gets you back into the same types of percentages of having a 3.5% chance of rolling a critical just on that.
Okay.
But it also makes it easier to miss when you have low target numbers. Let's say I got my skill 2 pilot out there. I'm at short range. You got a 1 TMM. I only need, basically a 4 or higher. I could actually miss with rolling D12s. And of course, this is doing it with the multiple dice per roll or per attack. So yeah, I'm still there's the potential that I'm not going to do all the damage.
Well, even when you think about it, when you're rolling 2 sets for each roll, each point of damage, there's still a good percentage that you're not going to hit with. It's very rare that, let's say, you roll 8 sets of dice because you have a heat and everything else going on, and you can do 8 points of damage. It's very rare that you're going to hit with all 8.
Right. But when your target number is a 4 or 5,
you're going to hit.
You're going to hit with most if not all of your damage.
Yeah. But for most 6, 7, and 8s, which is pretty much the more common target numbers you need, 9 and 10, 11 and 12, there are times when that happens. 13, 14, I've seen that. Why bother rolling? But hey,
you're not supposed to even try to roll if it's a 13 or higher.
Yeah, exactly. Why bother rolling?
That's pretty much the list of what I've got, other than what's in the actual campaign. We're pretty much at an hour already talking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, is there anything else jumping out that you guys can think of as far as house rules you wanted to add?
No, I mean, really, honestly, like I said in the beginning, just want to reiterate that when you come up with house rules, make sure they're A, they're balanced, B, they're accepted by everybody in the group, and C, to make sure that it doesn't just only benefit you. Remember, the golden rule with the WolfNet guys is don't be a dick when you come up with a rule. So
they got that right.
The new text for it. That's the new coin phrase.
Oh, and I have a little piece of news for everybody that's out there. At Adepticon, Randall Bills announced, I don't know if it's been announced before, but it's the first time I've heard about it, that one of the force packs coming out next year, not with the Kickstarter, but as an available force pack next year, is a set of Celestials in plastic. Oh, yeah.
Uh-oh.
All these wobbies. Hail Blake! Praise Blake!
I think I'll keep my I'll be telling you the truth. I think I'll keep my metal crack with those guys. I won't be buying them.
No, but neither are me, because I got them both in metal and in plastic, and already redone. But I'm fine with what I have. I don't need any more. But I am looking at some of the other force packs that are coming out. I don't know if I want to even touch one that has a painted mech in it, unless I want to paint them.
I think it'd be nice to have.
Those.
I've seen the General Kerensky one, and I actually got to say, you know what? I like just to have it as a collector's item.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would play with it. I think it would just be on the shelf.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like, I don't know, you guys saw, I put it in a message chat on our BattleTech page. You saw the new lineup and new miniatures are coming out. The Prometheus is coming out. So guess what?
Oh, God, that thing is so ugly.
Don't matter. You could be ugly underneath my boot.
The Prometheus. I like the rule of cool. If it's an ugly ass mech. Now, I did try to. There was one tournament we were going to do, and I was just going to 3D print every ugly mech I could find.
Well, why do you have to, but you don't have to do that. Just buy the proliferation cycle.
Those aren't that ugly. The Mackey's ugly, yeah.
The Mackey looks like the forerunner of the Urban Mech, the Imp, and the Flashman. And
it is.
And the Flashman is the coolest of the four.
Yeah, but I was looking at, oh God, what was one? It's the one that has the turret on the back. God, I wish I could remember the names of them.
Yeah.
They were just ugly. I've never used them in BattleTech because they were so ugly.
Goliath?
No, not a Goliath. It was a chicken walker, but it has it looks like it's got a turret on the back of it.
Yeah. I know the one you're talking about. I can see the box from where I'm sitting, but I'm not going to get up to go get it. But yeah.
Which one did you think it was, Bradley?
No, not a Berserker.
He was thinking it was the Goliath.
No,
but that's coming out. That's coming out with the Kickstarter.
All right, gentlemen, I think we go ahead and need to wrap this up. But real quick, I want to say to both of you, come this Saturday for our Critical Heat event, or actually Bragging Rights tournament. I want to wish both of you a good game, and let's see what you guys can do at the table.
Well, if my force, I'm interested to see how my Karita force does. I haven't had a chance to test this one. I redid it from the test that I did the other day, but we'll see what happens.
Yes, sir.
I'll be happy to just win one match. You know what I mean?
I went from Karita to Hell's Horses, so we'll see what happens.
Oh, good God. I hope we're not going to have a Hell's Horses like they do for all of the 350 tournaments where 3 people show up with combat vehicle Hell's Horses with 2 mechs. Oh, they're dashers. Oh, okay, fine.
I'm not allowed to talk about what anybody sent to me.
Not gonna say.
Oh, a full rainbow of stuff, dude. Being the TO of the event, I have got to see what, not only are we using SPA skills, this is the biggest thing I wanted to see, but we're also seeing the effects of experimental equipment that was normally forbidden in a WolfNet 350 tournament. And I'm like, no limitations. We're gonna do this. Boom, allow people to use experimental equipment. And I was very surprised by some people's picks and very shocked that somebody came up with something and was like, wow, that really works. You know,
we'll see what happens when we get there.
Yep,
I don't think I don't have any experimental in mind.
That's good.
I think I kept mine. Advanced was the highest as I did, and even then I had to think about it because when I looked at the force, I'm thinking, well, this one might do a little better for the range than this guy does. You know, it all depends. We'll see what happens, guys. I'll see you all this Saturday then.
Yeah, I'll be there Saturday.
11 o'clock. Oh, good God. I have to get up early. That's fine. I can get up early.
At least you're closer than I am.
Yeah, technically I am. 35 minutes to get there from here.
Oh, yeah. I got an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Let's sign off. See you.
All right. Take care, guys.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.